Some love stories end in heartbreak, others in tragedy. Tonight we unravel a case so chilling, so senseless, that it left two families shattered and a community reeling. This is the story of Dr. Andrew Bigby, a kind, ambitious young man with a bright future, and the woman who loved him to death. But before we get into it, let's start with a little bit of background. Shirley Jane Turner was born on January 28, 1961 in St. Anthony, Newfoundland, Canada. She had three siblings and lived with her mom and dad in Wichita, Kansas. Later, her parents separated and got divorced, and her mom moved them to Newfoundland. In 1980, Shirley enrolled at Memorial University of Newfoundland in the hopes of pursuing a medical career. A year later, she was pregnant with the child of her longtime boyfriend and they got married. It was a boy. Her husband raised the child as a stay-at-home dad while Shirley continued her education. While studying, Shirley decided to move to Labrador City to work as a science teacher, and she gave birth to her second child, a daughter, 2 years later. But during this period, she had an affair with an ex-boyfriend who was a fisherman from Corner Brook, which led to her divorce in 1988. Shirley quickly married her new boyfriend, but then, interestingly, she had an abortion in the same month that she got married, and no one knew who the father was. Her second husband also helped her with raising her kids, two of whom were fathered by her first husband, while she completed her undergraduate education. In 1990, 2 years after her first marriage ended, she gave birth to another daughter who her second husband fathered. During her second marriage, an unknown man revealed to his therapist that he had witnessed Sherry physically and emotionally abuse her two children, and social services got involved. The children said that their mother disciplined them by spanking and beating them with a belt, which was refuted by her then husband when he stated that she would only threaten them with a belt and would never actually hit them, and so the case was closed without interviewing Shirley. Shirley's love life, as you will come to find, was a roller coaster, and she got divorced from her second husband 3 years after the incident with social services. She was granted custody of all three children, but within days of winning the custody cases, she sent her daughter back to live with her second husband, and her first and second children were sent to live with their paternal grandmother. I always believe that you can't judge anyone, especially parents. Parenting is hard, and making decisions about your children's living arrangements is tough. But this is the point where I kind of felt like she was slipping off the road to being a good mom. Since 1982, Shirley had been taking out baby bonuses from a scholarship fund, which was meant to be like a college fund for her kids. But later she admitted to a relative that she had spent the money on her own living expenses and pursuing her doctoral education. So, feeling like she was being judged, she quickly said that she was doing this for their future, and she would earn big money after completing her education and would repay the savings. Having received her undergraduate degree, she earned her medical degree 4 years later and became a resident physician at teaching hospitals across Newfoundland. But it's easy to see that this tension in her life wouldn't only be limited to her personal life and would eventually bleed into other parts of her life as well. In the crisp winter of 1999, Dr. Shirley Turner arrived at a family practice in St. John's, Newfoundland to complete her residency. But it wasn't long before whispers of concern turned into outright alarm among the staff. Her supervising physician, a seasoned doctor who had trained hundreds of residents, noted an unsettling pattern in Shirley's behavior. She was quick to anger, prone to emotional outbursts, and seemed to crumble under criticism, accusing others of treating her unfairly rather than reflecting on her own shortcomings. Now, don't we all know someone like that? As the months passed, Shirley's conduct became increasingly troubling. During a remedial second residency period in early 2000, she missed 9 days of her 3-month rotation without providing any type of explanation. Worse, she was found to have falsified clinical reports. One patient even refused to return after an unsettling encounter with her, and the staff grew so uneasy about her volatile nature that they avoided giving her direct feedback or speaking with her in private. The supervising physician, who had trained over 400 residents in more than 2 decades, had never encountered anyone quite like her. Quote, "I felt like I was being manipulated whenever I spoke with Shirley Turner." He later admitted, quote, "She could be charming, even lively, but when confronted with an untruth, she turned angry. It felt like she was playing a role rather than truly caring about her work." End quote. But Shirley's unsettling history extended beyond the walls of the clinic. Back in March 1996, she had begun a relationship with Miles Doucette, a young resident in St. John's who was 13 years her junior. At first, the romance seemed ordinary, but when Doucette ended things and moved to another part of Newfoundland, Shirley refused to let go. The phone calls came relentlessly. Then, in November 1997, she tracked him down in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and in a moment of rage, struck him in the jaw with her high-heeled shoe. Shaken, Doucette sought refuge in the United States, settling in Westtown Township, Pennsylvania. But Shirley followed. Over the next year, she flooded him with voicemails, some pleading, others threatening. She would appear unannounced at his apartment, forcing him to call the state troopers on multiple occasions. He confided to the police that he was afraid. Quote, "I don't know what Dr. Turner will do next." End quote. Then, on April 7, 1999, his worst fears nearly materialized. That evening, Doucette returned home to find Shirley collapsed outside his apartment, barely conscious. She had ingested a dangerous cocktail of over-the-counter drugs in an apparent suicide attempt. She wore a black dress, clutched a bouquet of red roses, and beside her lay 2 suicide notes, one addressed to Doucette, the other to her psychiatrist. The latter note bore a haunting message: "I'm not evil, just sick." Rushed to the hospital, Shirley survived after undergoing a gastric lavage. But the following morning, Doucette received a chilling voicemail from an unknown female caller. Quote, "Dr. Turner died last night." This is just a little bit of information about Shirley, but let's get back to Andrew, the man we are here to remember. Andrew Bagby was born on September 25, 1974. He was the kind of man everyone wanted to be around: warm, funny, and deeply compassionate.
I have to point out he was short.
But he was a giant of a man.
Really a good storyteller.
He was completely selfless.
Animated.
Kind.
Jubilant.
Caring.
Devilish.
Laid back, very approachable.
Can I say things that are not like completely flattering and wonderful?
He had the capacity to have the worst possible gas.
He'd be proud of that, yep.
He wasn't a saint. He was a hell of a guy.
He was just so intelligent. And, crying. I'm sorry.
Born in California and raised in Pennsylvania, he pursued a career in medicine, eventually landing a residency in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. It was there that he met Shirley, a striking but much older woman, a fellow doctor who would change his life forever. At first, their relationship seemed like any other, But those closest to Andrew noticed something unsettling. Shirley was possessive, jealous, unpredictable, and soon her love for Andrew would turn into something far more sinister.
She just kind of appeared, and then she was there all the time, all of a sudden.
And just didn't seem suited for him.
Would you describe yourself as boyfriend and girlfriend?
Well, no, not really.
They did say that there was considerable age difference. And then the second time I heard him talk about it, he actually fessed to the age difference. And I was like, holy shit.
I'm 40 and he's 28.
Shirley's got 3 kids. Woo!
All my kids have a different last name from me, twice divorced, so.
Oh, okay.
Me, I always had to give him a hard time, so I teased him about nailing grandma.
And she seemed so incongruous with who I would picture him with.
A person like that isn't just like completely normal and then one day they become psycho, you know. I mean, there had to be some signs.
She'd just be really inappropriate with things, poor taste things that she would say.
She was always making kind of sexually inappropriate comments.
But never threatening. We never thought of her as being threatening, but just something was a little off.
Something wasn't right.
She started calling me on a regular basis. She talked forever, crude things about their intimate relationship.
But I thought it was kind of odd when I met her that she was not practicing. She had finished residency for quite some time, and yet she was having trouble getting her credentials.
Nobody said anything because we all respected Andrew.
And if he wasn't putting the pieces together or something, it just makes me think he was just not caring.
When Andrew graduated in May 2000 and secured a surgical residency in Syracuse, New York, Shirley took a job in Sac City. The long-distance separation strained the relationship, though they made attempts to visit each other. By Shirley's count, she traveled to see Andrew 7 times, while he visited her only once. During one of her trips, Andrew suspected that Shirley had broken into his apartment, though he had no concrete proof. In the fall of 2001, Andrew moved to Latrobe, Pennsylvania to begin a family practice residency. Shirley, meanwhile, left her job and moved to Council Bluffs, securing a new position in Omaha, Nebraska. But as Andrew tried to settle into his new life, Shirley's grip tightened. She called him obsessively, her jealousy escalating. In October, she went a step further, purchasing a handgun and taking firearm lessons. On October 30th, she delivered what she likely believed would bind them together forever. She told Andrew she was 3 months pregnant. Concerned but not yet convinced, he agreed to discuss the matter when she visited him during a wedding he was scheduled to attend. But when Shirley arrived in Latrobe at the end of October, fresh from her last firearm lesson, their conversations were dominated by arguments, particularly about Andrew's growing interest in another woman. On November 3, 2001, Shirley made a desperate confession. She had lied about the pregnancy, hoping it would keep Andrew from leaving her. Furious, he drove her to the airport where he broke up with her over lunch and put her on a flight back. The following day, Shirley called his residence 3 times. Then, with her gun and ammunition packed inside the gun box in her Toyota, she embarked on a grueling 16-hour, 946-mile drive to Pennsylvania. In the early morning hours of November 5th, Shirley arrived in Latrobe and confronted Andrew at his residence, located just across the street from his practice. That day, Andrew arrived at work in an agitated state. He confided in his supervisor about Shirley's unexpected visit. Sensing trouble, the supervisor urged him not to meet with her alone, but Andrew dismissed the concern, promising to stop by his house after speaking with her that evening.
He was found on the morning of Tuesday, November 6th, laying behind his car in a parking lot at Keystone State Park in Derry Township, Pennsylvania. A man walking through Keystone Park at 6:10 p.m. the previous evening, November 5th, had seen his black Toyota Corolla parked next to an SUV. This was 10 minutes after he told Clark he was going to meet Shirley.
Meeting her at 6.
Shirley drove a Toyota RAV4 SUV. He was shot 5 times, in the face, the chest, twice in the buttocks, and in the back of the head. He also received a blunt trauma to the back of the head.
That didn't sound random. That sounded like rage and vengeance.
The ammunition used was CCI 22 caliber bullets. There were 6 spent casings and 1 live round on the ground beside him. Shirley owned a Phoenix Arms 22 caliber handgun.
I'm not going to kid you, Doctor.
I know.
I'm interested in the gun. And you just bought the gun, right? Not too long ago?
Yeah, well, I have it for protection.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'm just
and
curious.
I wanted to know for safety. And I thought the instruction was a good thing.
I agree.
On November 12, 2001, Shirley Turner vanished from Council Bluffs. She left behind her home, her job, and any semblance of a normal life, boarding a flight to Toronto before eventually resettling in St. John's, Newfoundland, with her oldest son. But she was not alone in her escape. Pennsylvania State Police were already tracking her movements. For weeks, the authorities watched and waited. Then on December 2nd, they made a startling discovery. Digging through her discarded trash, they found an ultrasound printout dated November 29th. The scan confirmed what no one had anticipated. Shirley Turner was pregnant with Andrew Bagby's child. 10 days later, on December 12th, the RNC moved in. Shirley was arrested and extradition proceedings began, aiming to send her back to Pennsylvania to stand trial for Andrew's murder. For weeks, the authorities watched and waited. Then on December 2nd, they made a startling discovery. Digging through her discarded trash, they found an ultrasound printout dated November 29th. The scan confirmed what no one had anticipated. Shirley Turner was pregnant with Andrew Bagby's child. 10 days later, on December 12th, the RNC moved in. Shirley was arrested and extradition proceedings began, aiming to send her back to Pennsylvania to stand trial for Andrew's murder. But in a baffling turn of events, Newfoundland Justice Gail Welsh ruled that Shirley, despite facing first-degree murder charges, was not a threat to society. At 40 years old, Welsh reasoned she was unlikely to harm anyone else. Shirley was released from the Correctional Center for Women on bail, a staggering $75,000 posted with help from none other than her psychiatrist, John Doucette, a former colleague from Memorial University. She surrendered her passports, agreed to weekly check-ins with the police, and was ordered to stay within the area, forbidden from contacting Andrew's grieving parents. But the revelation of her pregnancy complicated everything. What had started as an extradition case quickly spiraled into a bitter custody battle. David and Kathleen Bagby, devastated yet determined, uprooted their lives and moved to St. John's, Newfoundland, in hopes of gaining custody of their unborn grandson. Meanwhile, Shirley found an apartment on Pleasant Street and prepared for motherhood once again. On July 18, 2002, she gave birth to a baby boy, Zachary Andrew. But from the beginning, something was painfully clear. Zachary did not form a strong attachment to his mother. He seemed far more at ease with other adults, especially his grandparents. Even at his first birthday party, held at a McDonald's in St. John's, the truth was undeniable. Watching Zachary cling to Kathleen Bagby with unmistakable affection, Shirley turned to her and snapped, "He obviously loves you more than me, so why don't you just take him?" Despite her struggles with motherhood, Shirley remained free. That changed in November 2002 when she was sent back to jail to await a final decision on her extradition. For a moment, it seemed justice might finally be served, but once again, Justice Welsh intervened. In January 2003, Shirley was released again. This time, the judge argued that the murder of Andrew Bagby was not a threat to the general public and that Shirley was, under the law, presumed innocent. Once more, Shirley Turner walked free, but tragedy had not yet run its full course. On the morning of August 18, 2003, Shirley was scheduled to have custody of her son Zachary. It was supposed to be just another routine handover, another day in the tangled web of court hearings, custody battles, and legal delays that had kept her free despite the murder charges hanging over her. Before taking Zachary, Shirley stopped by a St. John's pharmacy, filling a prescription for lorazepam. It was a small, seemingly insignificant errand, but it set in motion a plan so horrifying that no one could have ever imagined. Back at home, Shirley prepared a bottle of formula for Zachary, just as any mother would. But this time, she mixed in a heavy dose of lorazepam. As her son unknowingly drank the tainted milk, his tiny body grew limp, slipping into unconsciousness. Shirley, too, ingested a fatal amount of the drug, sealing her fate alongside his. With Zachary now unresponsive, she wrapped a sweater around him, securing his fragile body tightly to her chest. Then she drove to Foxtrot Marina. The water stretched out before her, dark, endless, and indifferent. Without hesitation, she stepped forward and plunged into the depth, vanishing beneath the cold waves. Sometime later, a vacationing couple walking alongside the shore made a terrible discovery. A woman's lifeless body had washed up on the beach. Nearby, the tiny, still form of a child was found. An autopsy later confirmed what some small part of everyone desperately hoped. Zachary had never felt the terror of drowning. The lorazepam had rendered him unconscious before he slipped beneath the water, but the knowledge offered little comfort. The final, unthinkable betrayal was complete. It was a crime that should have never happened. A tragedy fueled by red tape, by a system that failed the Bagby family time and time again. Kate and David Bagby turned their grief into action, fighting to change Canada's bail laws, ensuring that no other family would ever endure the same horror. Their story, chronicled in the heartbreaking documentary Dear Zachary, A Letter to a Son About His Father, remains one of the most devastating true crime cases of our time. 2 lives lost, a family shattered, and a justice system that failed them all. We remember Andrew, we remember Zachary, and we ask ourselves, how many more lives must be lost before justice truly prevails? Thank you for joining us tonight. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who claim to love us the most.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Are you babysitting?
Just got up. He's a little bleary-eyed, but there you
Very
go, boss.
Hi, sweetheart. Zachary, how is our baby today? Oh, nice. Are you having a good day with Grandmama and Granddad? Zachary, I love you, baby. Mommy loves you. Mommy misses you. Christmas is coming, and you're getting all ready for Christmas. I hate every time I call you, I have to ask you guys a favor, but you're not supposed to know. This is a surprise for you from Zachary. I don't know what to get Zachary. Some of those frames, even at the dollar stores, will say, there'll be little sayings on them. Like if you want to say Mommy and Daddy on a frame and stick a picture of me and Andrew in it. I don't know. Or, you know, Mommy with Baby. What about the one of me and Andrew? Did you have anywhere to put that? Or that
Not yet.
Not yet. Do you feel all right about putting that up? I mean,
Not quite yet.
Yes, okay. Now, I want to ask you, how's Kate doing? I thought about her all night. I wrote her a long letter last night to try and and make her feel better?
I think, I gotta say it again.
Yes.
The details are too touchy for us to do like this. I think our lawyers should hammer them out.
It's almost amazing to me how well you guys are taking care of him the way I would be taking care of him. Even Randy Pearson, he was like, Shirley, are you sure you can trust these people? And I said, yes, I am. He said, do you really believe they love the child? I said, yes, as much as I do.
Leave any theories or comments you might have for us down below. We're really interested to know what you think about this case.